Welcome to the tutorial for how to use the papered preset collection. You'll see here we got the garden variety, we also have papered, which is kind of fun. Papered has one extra versus the garden variety, a little bonus one there. So we'll get to that. We'll start with the first one, black and white etched. This might be one of my favorites from the whole collection because it just looks good with so many different images. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Specifically, I find that it does wonders for very minimal kind of close-up images like this one. So let's see what this looks like. And even though she's a little bit warm here, you don't have to worry about color, obviously, because it looks awesome in black and white. So at first you're gonna see it might be a bit too bright, so then I would tone it down a little bit. And what I love about this is like, it's really reminiscent of that kind of classic high key look with black and white, except that it's more modern take in my opinion because it's muted and the contrast is quite low. And I love that. So I really love the etch look for these guys. And you can go as bright as you want or as dark as you want, but preferably bright is pretty rad. And here's a few more that I thought looked cool with it. We'll start with this one actually. So this is raw, and then you just click etched and it does all the work for you, which is pretty rad. So I really love it with this type of look. It looks great in other areas also. So let's just play around and see what else is possible over here. Let's see, let's try this one. It's kind of cool. If we go etched here, that's pretty good. I would like bump up the contrast a little bit. Pretty fun. You can bring it up and down. Cool. And let's try something a little bit more like what you might get at a typical photo shoot. Nice. Something like this is already a bit bright, so lower that down like that, and then you've got this like nice etched look. So I hope that helps you guys have some fun with etched and fooling around with lots of cool close-ups and things like that. Next we have black and white grit, and I love this one. It's super dark and moody, and I know that's all the rage now, so let's click on grit. And what grit does automatically is it has a built-in radial filter adjustment, and this just kind of fills in your shadows, because I've found in the past that when I do dark and moody stuff, I want to bring the attention back to certain areas, so that's going to help me do that. So that's pretty cool. Let's try another photo for grit. Let's go back to this shoot actually. This is the raw file. You go grit and click on the radial, and then you can drag it over to where you want that focus back. By default, it bumps up the shadows, but if you need a little extra, you can just bump up the exposure a little bit. So that's cool. So you can see without that radial adjustment, it doesn't quite have that same focus on the subject. If you don't need it, you can just delete it, but by default it does come with it because I find that's super helpful. Let's see. Oh yeah, that also looks great with editorial stuff too. If you haven't, can't tell so far, I really like editorial stuff. So let's try it with this one. We'll go grit, super moody, and this image by default is a little bit more bright. So, oh look, my radial adjustment's exactly where I want it. I put it off center naturally because that's how I tend to shoot. You can lower that, and then you can bring this back, raise your shadows up all the way, and bring your exposure up a little bit as well. And then you're able to really bring back that focus, which is awesome. If you have two people in the photo, then I recommend right-clicking on the radial adjustment and duplicating that, and you can drag it to each face, which is pretty rad. Okay, awesome. So the next one we have is cambric. Cambric's pretty cool. I like it. Let's choose this as a raw file. I love it for that kind of glowing look. It's really great with ocean backgrounds. It does tend to encourage a tan on most skin tones, which is like always a bonus. And it also makes blues a little bit more turquoise. So it's pretty fun to make things look a little more tropical. And it's also great for like day-to-day stuff. So let's find one. Here's the family shoot. Here's the raw. We'll put cambric on that. And you can see how immediately it brightens and warms everything. And then the highlights are a little bit more of a cool tone, which is really fun. So one click, I'm actually like happy with that. If it's a little bit too warm for me, I can just like cool it down slightly. That's always an option. Let's try cambric on this one here. Just reset that. This one already has a lot of natural red tones because it was a beautiful sunset that evening. Let's see what cambric does. Oh, I like that. It's actually more subtle on this photo, which is pretty cool. And now we can check out cambric on this raw file, just to fool around. Oh, I really like that too. Kind of makes it a little bit more monochromatic and really smooth, which is awesome. So, super cool. Great. And then now we have damask. And I like to call damask kind of like the modern sepia. So it is like high contrast, but it does have very sepia tones. So let's go back to the before here. And damask, you can see it really desaturates things, it adds a warm hue to things. If you don't like the contrast as much, you can just pump up the shadows a little bit to bring some information back in there. Let's have a look at where else damask might look nice. And as always, for any preset that you're using, it really depends on the photo and your adjustments, and of course the end result that you would like. So let's do like a one click on this. Nice. It's a bit moody in here, so I'm gonna go bring my shadows up, and that's pretty rad. And for this one, if it's a bit on the green side, you can just bump up the reds, and then you've got like a cool looking feature here. So let's actually try it on this one too. Damask on this. Yeah, that's not bad. It's pretty cool. Might pump up the contrast a little bit because these guys are kind of backlit and washed out. So that's damask for you. And then finally we have linen. This is like the bit of a bonus one. It's kind of like the cousin or sister to damask. So I'll show you what linen looks like. It really makes white super white, a bit more of a cool tone actually. And it actually has an added benefit of taking away anything that's overly orange. So I find that when people kind of do the spray tan a bit too heavy, or maybe the golden hour is just a little bit much on the skin, linen's really good for kind of leaching that orange out and bringing that like nice consistent monochromatic light and airy look back to your images. So that's pretty cool on that one. And it's also great for editorial shoots. So here's a raw, we put linen back on that, and you can see how it just like kind of desaturates things and brings back that sepia tone that both damask and linen are known for. So that is completing on the tutorials, and happy presetting. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit us up or check out our Facebook group, and happy presetting.